Today we're going from 0 to 100 on Stagelight's instruments. Let's go. Hey everyone, Matthew Presley here with another episode of Stagelight 0 to 100. Today we're going to cover Stagelight's instruments. We're going to cover how to use the interfaces, how and where to find certain presets, how to use some of the advanced features, and much, much more. We have a lot to go over. Let's jump right in. Alright, let's get started. Here I've got a simple loop builder song. So I've got a drum part and track already. Let's just get into how to add an instrument track. You've probably seen this in one of our earlier videos. I'm going to show this in case this is the first one you're watching. To add an instrument track, you're just going to press the Add Track button and select Instrument Track. From here, you're going to get our basic instrument list. Now, in addition to our drum machine, we have 8 keyboard-based instruments here. To add an instrument, just hit the plus button, and it's going to add it. Now, in addition to adding things one at a time, you can also add multiple instruments. Let's add a few more from our Legacy Instrument series. I've added Electro keys. Let's add Electro Composer. I want to do that by dragging and dropping. Now, when you do that, you notice that it doesn't show the interface. It just adds the instrument to the track. So let's go ahead and add a couple of more. We'll add Electro Pulse, Electro Synth, and Sample Verse. Just drop that down right there. Great. Once you're done doing that, to close out of the browser, just hit this little arrow button right here. Okay, we've got some instruments added. Let's go back and start digging right in. We're going to jump right into Electro keys here. To quickly pull up an instrument on an instrument track, you can just double tap on the instrument icon like so. Here we are with Electro keys. Let's pull up some keys here. Got a simple piano sound set up there. Let's go ahead and start with just sounds. Your preset lists are right up here. If you just want to cycle between some and play, hit the left or right arrow button here, and it'll navigate through all your presets. If you want to look for something specific, touch the preset name, and it's going to pull up our preset browser. Our preset browser, by default, is going to show you all presets. And as you can see here, I have a lot. If I want to audition one of them, I can just tap on it. It'll play some notes so I can hear it without even touching the screen. Nice. Now, if you're looking for something specific, maybe you've downloaded, one of the many packs we have for the Electro keys here. You can do that by hitting your drop-down filter, and it'll let you sort the presets by pack. So if I wanted to go to, the synthetic pack, touch synthetic, and I now have some sounds. As far as choosing a preset, once you've auditioned it, just hit the plus button, and you can add it like so. Easy as that. Now let's move on to the Electro keys interface. What you're looking in front of you is our default view, and this is what you see on the Stagelight free version. And you get a filter, which you can kind of see is dancing around a little bit there. On our filter here, you can change the filter type from low cut to high cut to peak or notch. You get the idea. You can XY or dial something in, or dial your settings in with these knobs here. Moving over here to the left, you've got some simple attack. If you want something to fade in or be a little sharper, or stay on longer, and basic pitch and mod. On the left hand side, we've got our navigation, and now everything below filter is going to require a platform unlock. So your iOS unlock, for instance, for this iPad. All of the Electro instruments have 2 LFOs. So let's select LFO 1. I get the LFO 1 settings. Now, if I want to just have some fun, I can just draw around this XY pad and I can adjust my settings. If you want to get a little deeper, you can change the waveform type from saw, reverse saw, triangle, square, noise, you name it. You can change what the LFO is assigned to. LFO 1 can be assigned to the filter, or the rate of LFO 2, or the depth of LFO 2. You can also disable BPM sync if you don't want it to sync in with beats. Let's play with that. Let's get a basic setting going. Let's go back to BPM sync and let's just set it to like a quarter note. If I go back to the filter, you can see how the LFO is affecting the filter. So you can do some really cool sound sculpting stuff. LFO2 is a little bit different. Same overall features where beat sync, you can change the waveform, the rate, and the depth, but your targets are different. This allows you to target the resonance of the filter, or things like the pitch mod, or master pen, or volume. So maybe I want this to have like a tremolo effect. Set it to volume. We'll dial it into eighth notes. So as you can see with this, you can really kind of change and shape the sound and do all kinds of like beat synced effects. I just said effects. That is the last tab on any of the Electro instrument suites. This gives you access to control all the effect settings. So you have 4 effects built in, as you can see here and here. If you want to change some parameters on them, simply select it. Maybe you want to change the chorus. I select chorus, and I've got some simple settings to change the chorus. Let's turn this down a little bit, and this back down. Hold on one second. There we go. Now you'll notice I'm not really hearing any effect on the chorus. All your effects have a mix level right here. So if I want to hear the chorus effect on this, I just turn it up. Then I can make adjustments like so. Same goes for things like your bit crusher. Turn the mix up to hear it. You have access to a delay and reverb as well. All of these you can tweak, and when you save a preset, they all save and recall as you would expect. So those are all the advanced GUI features. Now, if you want to get into more, let me show you a quick tip. If you go to the plugin menu here, you're going to see a switch called Show Parameters. This works on most Stagelight internal plugins and VST or AU plugins, but it gives you a full parameter list. So for example, when you're tweaking your reverb, instead of having just the amount and the width, you've also got some dampening control, low cut, high cut as well, and a few extra parameters. Keep that in your back pocket. Next, let's move on to the Electro synth. Let me close out of the instrument here. Hit the X button there. So one thing before I move on to Electro synth is the Electro keys, composer, guitar, Electro organs. All of those have the same interface. So if I double tap on Electro composer here, it has the exact same layout and same features. The difference is the content that are included with them. So once you learn how to tweak and manipulate one, you'll learn them all. We're not going to be using that on this one, so let's go ahead and delete this instrument. If you want to delete an instrument on a track, you can do it right from the menu here. Touch and hit delete instrument, and boom, it's gone. You can drag and drop another instrument there, or maybe a VST or audio unit, you name it. Anyways, let's move on to Electro synth. I want to go ahead and just double tap to bring up the GUI. And you'll notice a similar pattern as far as where we kind of drop people in on the interface wise. This is what you get for free as well. You've got a simple filter here, a full ADSR, not just attack and release, and the pitch mod. Works just like it does on the Electro keys and in the Electro instrument series. Let's move on to the Voices tab. The Voices tab is how you control the waveforms that are a part of this synth. You've got all the usual shapes from sine, saw, reverse saw, triangle. You even have noise as well. Down below you have pitch control. So I have voice 1 set to octave right now. If I wanted to change that to semitone, I can do that and go up another octave. I can also change it to synths as well. Kind of add a chorusy effect. You have those for all 3 voices, and then you have a voice mix. So this allows you to dial in the amount of each voice. So if I turn all these down, you can create a nice blend of all the tones. moving on to the LFOs. We have our LFOs on one tab here, and like before, you actually have two of them. LFO 1 is all about manipulating pitch. You choose the oscillator you wanted to alter. Then you choose if you wanted to alter it in synths, semitones, or octaves. Then just change the amount and the rate. Let's change it to octave so you can hear the effect. And last but not least, beat sync. Maybe you want to change on every hit or some weird triplet, you name it. The sound sculpting capabilities are pretty vast in Electro synth. LFO2, as you might have guessed it, has some different targets. You can target the depth or rate of LFO1. You can target things like master volume, like it's set at now. That's given the little vibrato effect we have here. You can also target the volume of any of the individual oscillator voices. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Moving down to the effects, exact same effect layout. You've got crusher, chorus, delay, and reverb as well put in on these. And like I said, once you've learned how to use them in this or Electro keys, it's the same across the board. And last but not least, this instrument also has the show parameters. So if you really want to get technical, you really want to dive in, you really want to fine tune every last bit of the synth, this page will be your friend. All right, that wraps it up for Electro synth. Let's move on to one of my personal favorites, Electro Pulse. Electro Pulse has a lot of similar things to Electro synth, but a whole lot more. Definitely one of the more complicated instruments because there's a lot of moving parts here. Default GUI though, still got the signatures. You've got filter, you've got pitch and mod. You've got some modes to go between, monophonic and poly modes. And you've got your voice mix here. So similar to Electro synth, you have three oscillators. You've got an A, a B, and a sub. Now, let's look at what you can do with those oscillators. To do that, your navigation on the left-hand side, let's select voice A. So voice A gives you a whole extra set of parameters. You have the octave control. You have the waveform type. So if I wanted to change this from a saw to a sine wave or a square wave, I can. Same thing as well between changing octaves, semitones, and synths. You just set to what you want to change and then make the adjustment like so. One extra thing that this has over Electro synth is pulse width modulation, which adds this whole new texture modulation to any preset. Each voice also has its own ADSR. So if I want just voice A to fade in or hang around longer, I can do that. I can also filter it separately too. Pretty cool. Voice B, same thing. You'll notice when I touch it, it turns a purple color. Gives you a little visual indicator of what you're editing. But same thing. You can adjust all of these different parameters. And you can make some really gnarly sounds with it. I'm going to skip over the effects section real quick, and I'm going to cover the LFO section. Very similar to Electro synth, just a lot more modulation capabilities. You've got, all the usual waveforms, same controls with BPM sync, rate, and depth, but your targets for LFO1 are great. You can actually target pitches individually for a voice. You want to modulate the, A octave. In this case, I'm already modulating B octave. That's causing that rise and fall effect that you hear. You can have it adjust the semitones, the cent pitch control. You can have it adjust the filter frequency of voice A, the volume of voice A, the pan of voice A. Same thing with voice B. All of them down. And you can even modulate the sub volume or the main master filter frequency. Let's put this back on B octave. LFO2, even more targets. You can have it assigned to master volume, pan, master filter resonance, the pulse width modulation of voice A, voice B, or A filter resonance or B filter resonance, and then some of the effects like the drive effect A or B, or driving for the sub, or flanger for voice A, B, or sub. Now I haven't shown you any of those yet. That's because all of the effects are nestled in our effects tab here. Lots of fun stuff to play with. Similar mechanics over here for the effects side. We just have a slightly different effect layout. You've got drive, delay, flanger, and reverb versus, bit crush and chorus. For drive, it's the same drive effect that we have that you can apply on our instruments. But what's cool is you can apply it to not just the master, to individual voices. So I can turn the distortion off of oscillator A, for example, and just have it on oscillator B. We also have a link function. Maybe I turn on delay. If I hit link, it's going to automatically keep the volumes consistent on oscillator A and B. Turn it off. Now the delay is only affecting oscillator A. If I want to do the same thing, maybe reverse it, have it only affect oscillator B, I can do that like so. So as you can see, there are a lot more sound sculpting capabilities in Electro Pulse versus Electro Synth. The next is another fun effect that we have, and it's also available as a standalone effect, and that is our Gator utility. Our Gator utility works in mono or stereo and works similar to our step sequencer. If I turn all these on, it's going to let all the sound pass without being gated whatsoever. I start turning these off, it's going to start breaking it up rhythmically. And just with a few taps, you can make a really cool, unique pattern. And since it's beat synced, it'll match any beat you have on it. So let's say, maybe you take one of our presets and you mangle it and you make it something, unique to fit your own song or your own sound that you hear in your head, and you want to save it. Plugin menu up here, right there, save preset as. Type that in. Hit save, and now it's going to be added. Where is it going to be added? Probably where you're automatically guessing, your preset library. As you can see, I have tons of presets here. If I want to find one that I've personally made or saved easily, hit the filter, select user, and boom, there's my preset. Let's go ahead and close out of this and move on to Sampleverse. Now, I think I'm going to stop right here because Sampleverse is our latest and greatest. It is a beast. I think I'm going to dedicate all of next week's episode to everything in Sampleverse. So well, that wraps it up for this episode. If there's anything you missed or you got any questions, drop us a comment below. If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button. And when we post next week's on everything about Sampleverse, you will be first to know. Thank you all again for watching. We'll see you next week. Later.